Lights are awesome, but traffic lights are the best of the best. Today, I'll cover their history, design, and drama. I gotta do this quick though because I have a certain tenant who I can't let off the hook. Let's waste no time. Before we discuss traffic lights, we gotta understand what led to them. Ancient roads were mostly boring dirt paths used for boring trade traversed by boring animals, which sucked because they turned into boring mud after boring rain. Two Mesopotamian cities, Ur and Babylon, decided to take matters into their own hands and pave their roads with rocks. The Romans noticed this and thought it was so PogChamp, so Omega Lol, so Monka W that they'd copy it. And they did a damn good job, creating a gigantic network of both rural and urban roads. However, vehicles were blocked from urban areas, which is honestly base, so this wasn't the start of urban road signs. The Romans also created the first road markers, which really put the stone into milestones, am I right? However, the Romans fell, and because everyone was cringe back then, they stopped working on roads. That brings us into the medieval times, which I'm gonna skip over because who cares? By now, it's 1722 and London is a miserable, congested mess of a city, which it still is to this day. The London Bridge specifically was a train wreck, or should I say wagon wreck, with everyone acting like a bunch of wankers. The Lord Mayor got tired of this and appointed 3 people as traffic police, marking the first time anyone in London ever made a good decision. Over the years, the world's traffic problem kept growing as more and more places copied London, which is never a good idea no matter the circumstance. This finally brings us to the first traffic light, which I'm sad to say was as British as goofy-eyed prime ministers who resign all the time. J.P. Knight, which assumedly stood for Jake Paul Knight, was a British engineer who, in 1868, had enough of wankers on Bridge Street ruining everything for pedestrians. And so, after what I'm sure was years of meticulous work, he presented the world with the first traffic light, which was installed in London on December 9th, 1968. It used semaphore arms with gas lights that made them visible at night. It was also manually powered, which I'm sure wouldn't lead to anything bad, right? Yeah, so on January 2nd, 1869, just as the light had exploded onto the scene, it also literally exploded, killing the person operating it. I sure hope JP Knight's New Year's resolution wasn't that nothing he made blew up. Because of this incident, traffic lights vanished from Britain just like their empire, but unlike the latter, traffic lights would return in 1925. However, across the pond in the land of In-N-Out, Whataburger, and Five Guys, the traffic light tirade continued. Go up to a random guy in the street and ask them what they know about Ohio. No, seriously, do it right now, I command you! The most they'll say is that Jake Paul's from there and their flag is funny, but for tyrannical Toledo, 1908 brought along their greatest achievement, the first ever American traffic light. It was similar to the British one and utilized a whistle in place of a yellow light, which I typically say would drive people mad, but if you willingly live in Ohio, you're already past the point of insanity. Around 3 football fields away from Toledo and Cleveland, traffic lights finally stopped using potentially lethal gas in 1914 and switched to Sigma male electricity. Man, alongside lead gas, old roads were as lethal as a British pub after England loses the World Cup. Now defunct local newspaper, The Motorist, commented on the traffic light, believing it to be perhaps destined to revolutionize the handling of traffic in congested city streets and should be seriously considered by traffic committees for general adoption. Unlike everyone's 2020 predictions, they were spot on. Speaking of 2020, 100 years earlier, Los Angeles did the most they've ever done to streamline traffic in their entire history by introducing the first automated traffic lights. Up to this point, you may have noticed a severe lack of yellow lights on these traffic indicators. I know that you're begging and pleading for me to cover these, but geez, be a little patient. In hindsight, it seems pretty obvious. Everything good comes in threes. Wise men, stooges, monkeys with sensory impairments, nephews of Donald Duck, and parts of Holy Trinities. Now we can move on to Maryland, Maryland. In 1928, engineer Charles Adler Jr. had an amazing idea, sonically activated traffic lights. However, in practice, people honked right next to the traffic lights to turn them green. Come on, Adler, even my 2-year-old deformed ferret chinchilla hybrid pet could have expected that. But Adler wasn't done. The next year, he invented the pedestrian push button, which completely ratioed the other traffic engineers, and was a huge Adler W. Let's check in on the traffic lights themselves. Oh wow, they got a glow up. By now, it's the 1950s, the decade of... yeah. Computers and their chips had finally gotten advanced enough to control traffic light automatically, so basically, they upgraded from potato to tortilla chips, don't at me over that one. Over the next few decades, the computers advanced and spread, up until the 90s, which brought one of the most controversial additions to traffic light lore, countdown timers. We'll cover them more when we discuss controversies, but geez, you gotta have some patience before that, I mean, oh my lord. Finally, the decade of Shlant, or as you normies might call it, the 2010s, brought the most underrated traffic light feature, Bluetooth connectivity, finally achieving the automation that Adler would have wanted but never achieved. Now, it's finally time to unveil how traffic lights actually work. Basically, hey you, get back here!
Huh?
Don't act stupid with me. I know you're trying to get out of paying rent by sneaking out while I'm recording. You may live in my basement, but it doesn't come free.
Alright, I'll pay.
Actually, I have a proposition.
Shoot your shot, man.
Anyways, I'd be willing to absolve you of this month's rent if you cover this part of my video.
Alright, I'm down.
Good. I'll be back soon. I gotta go get some chocolate muffins. Have fun!
But how do I... Alright, let's get this rent, gamers. The main thing you gotta understand about traffic lights are the pressure plates. Beneath the road is a string of wires that through a process called inductivity, of which Shlant said that he, quote, doesn't give a single f***ing f*** about to explain. The wires can sense when cars have passed over the road, how many are on it, and for how long. This information is then sent to a big ol' chunky ol' glumby ol' computer network, which tries its best to calculate the fastest traffic for the entire city. It's basically like Skynet but for traffic lights, so it should really be called Traffic Light Net. As mentioned before, some traffic lights have Bluetooth connectivity with public transportation, which is cool and pog and all, but some have countdown timers, or the dreaded red light cameras, which Shlant is gonna cover in the
next section.
How the hell did you know to say that?
Oh, I was standing out there for like 30 seconds waiting for the perfect entrance.
Damn, that's some real life James Bond stuff right there.
It's really not.
Oh.
Yeah. At first glance, traffic lights seem uncontroversial, but you'd be surprised by the sheer amount of vitriol surrounding these three colored lights. The longest running debate surrounding them is whether they're better than roundabouts. Spoiler alert, no. They cause more collisions, have worse traffic flow, and cost more, but apparently America hasn't picked up on this because there's around 4 roundabouts in the country and the only person who knows how to use them is named Mario. Decades later, another controversy arose with the introduction of countdown timers. While they were a huge success with pedestrian push buttons, the same can't be said of traffic lights. They cause more crashes when they count down the time till a red light, because traffic lights make a 6-year-old on a long road trip out of even the most patient man, but they prevent more crashes when they count down the time till a green light. That apparently doesn't matter in America since they're banned. Probably because... well, next up is one of the most hated aspects of modern traffic lights, red light cameras. These cameras record when people run a red light. They debatably cause more crashes, but either way, they've been on the decline since 2012, going the way of hashtag YOLO, Gangnam Style, and Tumblr. Their constitutionality has been brought up in court, but so far it seems that our founding fathers would have found that red light cameras are totally rad. Even state governments don't like them, as in some states it's illegal to issue statutes due to evidence gathered from red light cameras. If it wasn't already evident how much people dislike these things, Long Island resident Stephen Ruth would take things to another level by posting a video of him destroying a red light camera because he considers them accident causers and a waste of taxpayer money. Predictably, he got fined because, and I don't know how this isn't the most obvious thing in the world, posting videos of you committing crimes on the internet is not a good idea. Finally, pedestrian push buttons have been under fire in recent years due to the symbol used to represent go not being inclusive enough. This has come up in New Zealand, the United Kingdom, Germany, Austria, and oh yeah, actually Australia. But none of those places are the United States, so who even cares? Well, if you're still watching by this point, then you must care, but sadly this video must now come to an end. We went through so much together, and although you may be left crying, how about you consider me and the fact that I got shot into a
Anyways, although he may be complaining now, I'm sure Shlant wants to thank all of you for watching this video. I'm not the guy who's supposed to say this, but bye-bye, wolf friend pack amigo thingies.
Ugh, Mondays, am I right?